So Eskom not pulling any punches, acknowledging that we could see stage 6 power cuts get even worse. They are hoping, of course, that they're going to be able to pull us down to stage 5 by Friday, but there's a lot on the go. Most notably, of course, is what's going on at the Koeberg nuclear power station. Tomorrow, they are taking a unit offline for long-planned repairs. Let's speak now to energy expert Chris Yelland. So, Chris, talk to us about Koeberg. One thing that Sikonati said in the full interview that was done a little earlier this afternoon is that they have actually been gradually reducing the amount of electricity Koeberg Unit 1 is feeding. So when it goes off tonight, I think he said it's going to be about 650 megawatts. That is still a massive chunk of electricity that could power quite a few towns, if my understanding of it all is correct. Do you expect us to move from 6 into 7 or even 8 by tomorrow?
Yeah, the unit at Koeberg is typically generates about 900 megawatts. And it has been reduced, its output over the last weeks to 650 megawatts. And we're going to lose that tomorrow. But we're actually losing 900 megawatts for an extended period of, say, 6 months. Now, we're kind of going into uncharted territory here. We hoped, or Eskom hoped, that by now it would have some experience in replacing the steam generators, because that was supposed to start with unit number 2 in the first 6 months of this year. But that was abandoned shortly after it started. So we're going into a territory that Eskom have never been in before. They have never replaced a steam generator before, so we don't really know what problems are going to be experienced. Obviously, there's a whole plan, but as we all know, things don't always go to plan, especially when you are in uncharted territory and haven't done this before. So I think the risks are higher than normal. And I think there is a possibility of going to a higher stage of load shedding tomorrow, particularly as Sikonati has indicated that Eskom are no longer using their open cycle gas turbines to meet normal demand during the working day or even during the night. They are reserving and preserving diesel and using the open cycle gas turbines because they run out of money and diesel. For dire emergencies. And when I say dire emergencies, I mean to avoid a national blackout.
Yeah, I mean, a dire emergency is clearly not stage 6. As you say, it's a national blackout. Just for a point of clarity, when you spoke about the steam generator needing replacement, is that at Koeberg, at the nuclear power station?
That's correct. At Koeberg, the generators run off steam turbines. The nuclear reactors provide the heat to generate the steam. And there is a so-called heat exchanger, a pressurized water to steam heat exchanger that heats up a secondary circuit of water, turns it into steam, which drive the turbines and the generators. So yes, that is for the nuclear power stations where there are steam generators which actually produce the steam from the heat generated from the nuclear power station.
And as you say, that's going to knock out 650 megawatts over the next few months, however long it takes to fix. You mentioned the issue of diesel. Sikonati also said that they just don't have the money yet until the new year, is my understanding, or the new tranche kicks in. We did get diesel from Petro SA. Does that suggest that actually they've used that all up already?
I think it suggests they're conserving it, using it to the least extent possible. And that means effectively, if they are not, I mean, those open cycle gas turbines in the Cape, the Eskom ones, generate about 2,000 megawatts. So if they're not using that to meet normal demand, that adds an extra 2 stages of load shedding. And this unit of Koeberg going down adds an extra 1 stage of load shedding, for this extended period. Eskom do say that the new financial year, that's on the 1st of April next year, their new budget comes into play, and then they will have the money to procure diesel up to their budgeted amount. But already, as you probably have heard, the diesel budget has been exceeded by 2 times this year already. in the first 7 months of the year. So between April and November, they've used twice the budget of diesel, and that's only the first 7 months of the year, and there's another 5 months to go. So they are seriously over budget, and they don't have the money this financial year to continue running those OCGTs to meet demand.
Do you think we're likely to get a bit of a reprieve when big business gears down for the December break? We know that, for example, the construction industry closes down mid-December. Do you think that we might be in for a tough week ahead and then things will ease up a little for the sort of 2-3 weeks after that when everyone goes on holiday in South Africa?
One would hope so and expect so, because certainly over the days just before Christmas and up to just past New Year, that week or week or two is a very low demand time in South Africa. But the levels of unplanned breakdowns are literally unprecedented. I mean, today Eskom's media briefing announced that they had just over 19,000 megawatts of unplanned breakdowns. And I think it was about 4,500 megawatts, 5,000 megawatts of planned breakdowns, taking it to 25,000 megawatts that is not available for service. That is a record. That's a record. And already in December, demand is lower than normal. And we have stage 6 load shedding today. So things are serious. I don't think we can get away from that. But I do want to say one thing, and that we should not, and the public should not see the level of load shedding stage as an indicator that we are closer to a national blackout. It's an important point to note. The fact that we have a load shedding, and let's say it's stage 6, indicates that by doing stage 6 load shedding, supply and demand have been brought back into balance. And therefore, there's no specific risk. In other words, I'm trying to say that the level of load shedding is not a direct indicator of the risk of a national blackout, which still remains very low at the moment.
I'm glad you've put that into perspective, because I was going to say, could this mean that we're teetering on the edge of like a full-scale blackout, which would take us weeks to get the grid going again? What you're saying is we're looking at a managed process. It means we have more time in the dark, but it's still a managed process. It's a really important point you make.
Exactly.
I have to ask you a last question. We know that Eskom is making some progress in getting to the thieves that are milking the system, those people who are deliberately sabotaging, who are stealing coal, etc., etc. We also know that Eskom has quite a few aging power stations, which is one of the reasons Koeberg needs so much help. Do you think that Eskom is having a lot of breakdowns mostly because of that? Or do you believe that what Ted Blom told Dan Moyane this afternoon, part of the problem, he believes, is that they're fixing the problem with cheap material, cheap fittings, not using quality parts? Do you think that Ted is making a good point?
I think, you know, the parts, the spares, the availability of spares is part of the problem. So it's not a problem with a single cause or even a single main cause. There are multiple causes, including the fact that the plant is old. It is end of life, some of it. It has been badly abused and overloaded and used beyond its rating in the past extensively. Maintenance has been skipped. Skills have been depleted. Poor quality coal has been used. So all of these things come together. I would not like to suggest that the use of pirate parts, you might say, is the main cause. It is a contributory cause.
Okay, thank you so much. And thanks very much for your time this evening. Energy analyst Chris Yelland telling us that we are very much in uncharted territory. Demand should be lower already by this point in December, but we are on stage 6 when Koeberg Unit 1 goes offline from midnight. We could very easily move to stage 7, possibly beyond.